Morning guys, welcome. We're just going to have a quick look at how to set up the wireless timing gates, set them up with the software connecting to those, and then just doing our first test race. So all I've got with me right now is my trusty trolley, 5 bases, 5 poles to make up 4 lanes, my laptop, timing hub, USB cord, and a start device. So my first step is put my bases down, but before I put them down, I just have a quick look at the environment. Today, here's my imaginary track. That's the sunniest side of the track for me today. The sun is obviously always coming up in the east and going down the west. So over this side of the track today is my sunniest side. Reason why that's important, on the bases, we have an arrow. That arrow needs to be pointing across either from lane 1 to lane X or from lane X to lane 1, and it needs to be pointing towards the sunniest side of the track. So as I mentioned, this side is my sunniest side, so my arrows are all going to be pointing from lane 1 across to lane 4 in this case. So here's my arrow. There's no other arrow on here. I'm going to put it down so that they're all pointing from left to right, or my left to right. So 1 base. Again, here's the arrow. 2. 3. 4. Now just a note on these bases. They've got a steel plate in the bottom. They're 8 kilograms each, which means in theory they're good for around 70 km/h winds without any extra ballast being added to them. The pole's 1.6 meters tall. It's 43 millimeters wide. With that weight on a nice stable ground, it should be good for around 70 km/h. So all my arrows are now pointing across, as we discussed. With my gates, I've got the front side here, which has my on-off button. On the back side here, I've got my oval holes. So that whole conversation about the sunniest side of the track, it's like, why Nick? Why do I need to point them that way? Well, that's a very good question. So on the back side of the gates are the eyes. On the front side are the senders, so the LEDs. They make light. On the back side of the same gate, it's looking for light. Just like you don't like looking at the sun unless you've got a welder's mask on or something like that. Same with the gates. So instead of trying to compete with the sun and filter it out, then we won't see anything, because you can have low sun in the morning or the afternoon depending on where your track is. So a simple rule is just turn your back to the sun. Happy days, okay? So there's no sunglasses or welder's mask for your gates. Just simply turn the gates back to the sun, or away from the sun. So here's the front side. There's also, to help with the orientation, in the bottom of the tube there's a little notch, which then means in the bottom of the base, which it's connecting to, there's a tongue. So it's a tongue and a groove, or a male and female connection, depending on what makes sense to you. So when I put my gates in, the arrows are this way, so that means the notch also needs to be this way, which is the same side as my on-off button. So I locate the round part of the base, push it down. I should feel that little notch once the groove and the tongue align. Push it in. That's pretty positive, that's in. Now if you're on a grass track, depending on how good the grass is, how much care is taken into the finish line, you can get some wonky grass tracks that are lumpy due to tufts of grass, or your lines have been worn through because of years of being there and using line marking, and it's killed the grass, and then you're just left with sand. So it's important to make sure that your finish line is as straight as you can. So across the track, so then your gates look nice and straight if you look at them side on. But then also, if you can, if you need to get some sand or something like that, just to pack out the base. So the bases are 25 centimeters in diameter, so you may need a little bucket of sand just to help create some nice pads for the bases to sit on, so that everything looks nice, so that the families or athletes look at the finish line, it looks good. and that will also help with the gates because they also have to see each other along the way. So again, bases with the arrows from left to right. I'm slotting my gates in so that they also slot into that little notch so that I don't have a choice. They're all pointing in the same direction. Now these gates may be a little wonky, so I'll do a bit of time after this video to set them up for the next video so that they look and feel nice. If you're on a proper track, then in theory you've got nice lines, a flat ground to make this an easier process. Okay, so have a look. Whoa, I'm way out of whack here. So I'll now spend some time setting up my gates and just make sure that they're straight and they're flat, and then we'll get on to setting them up with the software, connecting it all up and getting ready for our first test race. We'll see you back here soon.